Hey guys, so today I'm going to be filming my September wrap-up and October TBR. Anyway, I'm just going to get right into it. So the first book that I read in the month of September is Maybe Someday by Colleen Hoover. Now, I mentioned earlier in one of my previous videos that I didn't really like Colleen Hoover. So this is a new adult novel, and a lot of people were really raving about this book and saying Colleen Hoover is the best, and maybe she is the best in this genre. Maybe I just don't particularly care for the genre, that's possible. But I wasn't a really big fan of this book. Overall, I think I would probably give this book 3 out of 5 stars. The basic premise for this book is there's this 22-year-old girl named Sydney, and she lives with her best friend and her boyfriend and her best friend cheat on her with each other. So she ends up moving in with the guy across the street who she doesn't even really know, and falling in love with him even though he has a girlfriend that he's had for 5 years, and it's just this big mess. And you know, I'm not a big fan of big messes, so that's probably why I didn't like it. I will say that it was very fast-paced, very easy to read, so that was nice. I got through it really quickly. One thing of note is that Ridge, the guy character, he's deaf. And so there are a couple things I appreciated about this approach and a couple of things I didn't. First of all, I appreciate just the deaf approach overall. The fact that Colleen Hoover took the time to write about someone that was not in the cultural majority. However, she didn't really address the cultural aspect of deafness. She only addressed the physical aspect of deafness. And the thing is that most deaf people associate themselves very strongly with the deaf culture. It's very important to them that they're part of that culture, and this character in the book had none of that whatsoever. Also, she didn't really bring up the issue of total communication, which is talking while using sign language, and that is a really tricky thing to do. And in the book, the characters did it like it was nothing. The thing is that American Sign Language and English have very different syntax, so it's very difficult to actually talk while you sign. Ridge's character, though, he was very into music. Both Sydney's and Ridge's characters were into music. But it was really interesting how Colleen Hoover brought up feeling the music, so that was cool. I really appreciated that. One really cool thing about the book is that it came with a soundtrack. So there were these different songs that they wrote together, and you could actually listen to them, and they were pretty good. I mean, I probably wouldn't buy them, but I'd definitely listen to them. So that was really fun, a multimedia approach. What I didn't like about the book was that there were way too many at war with my heart analogies. Because this book addresses cheating, that's practically all the main character ever said about the subject. The number of times that she actually used that phrasing, "at war with my heart," was obscene. So if you're not one for repetition, maybe don't pick up this book. Moving on, the next book that I read was Outlander by Diana Gabaldon, and oh my goodness, this is an incredible book, and I'm going to do a full review on this book because it definitely warrants it. Basically, it's about Claire, and she is vacationing on a second honeymoon with her husband in the Scottish Highlands, and she ends up going through this portal to be transported back in time 200 years. And I'm not normally one for time travel books, but you know, this one was really well done. It really worked with all of the Scottish myths and things, and it was just very well done. I really grew to love and respect the characters in the book, and it was epic, to use that phrase, but it was a 600-page book, and it was just huge. The first 200 pages or so were a little bit tough to get into, but once you got past that and really started growing an affinity for the characters, the story just got better and better, and it was really hard to put down. I would give that one a 5 out of 5 stars. It was not my favorite book that I've ever read, but it definitely deserves 5 stars. The final book that I read in the month of September was 100 Sideways Miles by Andrew Smith. So this book is kind of hard to tell what it's about just based on the cover. You know, the characters were really believable, really fun. I really enjoyed them. The main character's name was Finn, and Andrew Smith had great development of Finn's character. You could really see the growth. He's epileptic, and so he went from being really embarrassed about that to being his own person and realizing that he could write his own story and he could create his own life. And the book was kind of crazy. You had horses falling from the sky and alien invaders and time measured in distance and all sorts of things like that. But it was really good. The sense of humor was sort of like John Green. I felt like I was reading a John Green book, but less sad, if you know what I mean. The one thing that I didn't really like about the book was that the romance was way too quick. The main character met this girl, he really liked her, he really loved her, they fell in love and they were together instantly. Like, it wasn't very realistic, and maybe that happens for some people, so maybe it was realistic in certain situations, but for most people it was really quick. It was one of those love at first sight type things, which overall the book was really entertaining, so I would definitely recommend it based on that. I think the moral was basically to realize that you can be your own person and you can create your own life, which is, I would rate this book 4 out of 5 stars. That is it for my September wrap-up. Now moving on to my October TBR. Because we are a few days into October, I have already completely read one book, and it was a really short book. This is Saga Volume 1. So this is a graphic novel. It's graphic. That's what I have to say about it. I will talk about it in my October TBR. I did like it, and I'm excited to review that for you. The next book that I'm reading is Anna and the French Kiss. Now, I know I was going to save this book for reading until after I read a really heavy book, but honestly I just needed some light, fluffy, easy reading in my life, so I decided to pick this one up. The next book that I'm planning on reading is The Shock of the Fall. Now this is an ARC copy because the paperback version of this book is coming out in November, so I definitely want to read this during the month of October and review it before November, before it comes out in paperback. It is already out in hardback, so you know, if you want to read it before me, go right ahead. I'm really looking forward to reading this one. I don't know that much about it. I've heard that it's comparable to John Corey Whaley's Where Things Come Back, which I own but haven't read yet. So I'm excited to read both of those, this one in the month of October. Next, to keep things in the Halloween spirit, I'm planning on reading The Unbecoming of Mara Dyer, which I have heard amazing things about, and I'm so psyched to read. It's going to be amazing and very creepy, so perfect for this time of year. The added bonus is that the third book in this trilogy comes out in November, so if I read this one and then if I read the second one, I can pick up the third one and just be right on track. The last book that I'm planning on reading is one out of my TBR jar. So you guys all know about my TBR jar. I have all of the books that I own but have yet to read in here on little slips of paper, and so I'm going to pick out 2, and I'm going to choose one of them to read in the month of October, and if I don't read it in the month of October, I'm going to have to get rid of the book. So it gives me really good incentive to read the books that I have but haven't read yet. Alright, so this first one is The Archived by Victoria Schwab. Okay, what is my second option? You guys ready? Digging way down there for something good. Powers by Ursula K. Le Guin. So these are the 2 books that I can choose from, and this one is a fantasy novel. This one is a creepy looking novel that I just picked up recently. I hauled it in my August haul. So I think that I'm going to have to go with The Archived. And the reason that I'm going to go with The Archived is because it's creepy, and I think it's about dead people in catacombs, and so it's also perfect for the Halloween season. How much better could this be? I'm so excited to read this. Okay guys, that's about it for my September wrap-up and October TBR. Check back for some more videos really soon. Stay happy, stay healthy. Bye guys.